Mickey with CarryTrainer.com. This don't suck. I'll talk more about this in a second. Do you ever wonder where the information that we pass on in the shooting world comes from? How to hold the gun, how to see the sights, how to press the trigger, how to move it, all that stuff. Recent commenter informed me that some stuff that we were teaching was stolen from some guys that figured it out about 4 years ago. I got up and made a list this morning, and I've talked about some of these men before, and I'm going to just name some guys off. D.R. Middlebrooks, Benny Cooley, John Shaw, Jerry Michalik, Ed McGivern, Bob Munden, Ron Avery, Bill Rogers, Robbie Latham, Todd Lewis Green, rest in peace, Todd Jarrett, Mickey Fowler, Mike Plaxo, Travis Tomasi, Bob Vogel, my good buddy Les Keys Martoni, and Bob Housingay. Also ripped to Mr. Ron Avery and a few other of these guys like Munden and McGivern. These are just a smattering of people dating back 100 years to present who have added tons to the shooting world. We put a video up yesterday where my friend Z Durham at the recent S12 was talking about some shooting mechanics, driving the gun, seeing the sights, etc. And you got to keep in mind when we put these videos up, it's not the entire course. It's snippets of 5, 10, 15 minutes that we're giving you for free. And somebody said that stuff was created by this guy or that. Well, this guy or that guy that he mentioned have only been shooting for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I listed people that have been dead for 50 years here that were shooting as faster as those guys. You go look up Bob Munden or go look up Ed McGivern and tell me if anybody today is doing things that Bob Munden or Ed McGivern was doing back in the day. And if you don't know who those guys are, look them up. My point in bringing this up, I think it's cool that you want to defend your heroes. I think it's cool that we give credit. In fact, if you paid attention to me at all over the years, I'm very careful to make sure that I pass on where I learned something from. Just because it's honorable is one thing, but it's also pretty douchey to try to adopt somebody else's work as your own. Now that said, I'm out here on this lake. I'm watching people fishing yesterday. Man's been fishing for a long time. Yes, handguns are not around as long as fishing has been, but when you have thousands and thousands, millions of humans working towards something, we cannot say in this modern time that this shooter from Wisconsin or this shooter from Florida figured it out 5 years ago. That's just ridiculous and silly. Why I wanted to take a moment to do this is I do think the history of some of these guys is important. One of the guys I mentioned, Ron Avery, was a pioneer through the 70s, 80s, 90s. Ron passed away a few years ago. And guys like this have their work copied over and over. In fact, there are people that have created whole shooting programs on Ron's work and don't give him an ounce of credit. In fact, they say, this is mine, even though those guys were lifelong students or multi-year students of Ron's. And Ron's gone now and can't defend himself, so I'll do it for him. Or guys like D.R. Middlebrooks. There's dudes passing on the grip or the presentation of the pistol with the karate chop that D.R. was doing 30 years ago, before these guys were even out of high school, that are saying it's theirs. That said, is it not possible that multiple people in multiple places on this planet can come to similar conclusions? I think wrestling, jiu-jitsu is an interesting thing. Brazilian jiu-jitsu is full of all types of movements and mechanics that people were doing in ancient Greece, in Ireland, in Asia, and in other parts of the world. People can't just say some guy in Rio de Janeiro invented a way to underhook a person's shoulder. High school wrestling, freestyle wrestling uses these movements. There are systems and schools where information is codified and put into training programs, and that's really one of the takeaways from this talk here today. Is certain people put this stuff into bite-sized, compartmentalized chunks and programs where it can be passed on. But some of the stuff, like what we're seeing through the sites, no, there's not some guy in the last 4 or 5 or 10 years that came up with that. Sorry, Charlie. Those guys may have made a book or a video that got a lot of views or people downloaded or bought a bunch of, but it's been done. Pat Rogers from Rogers Shooting School is a great one to think about. I'm sorry, Bill Rogers from Rogers Shooting School is a great one to think about in that sense. Pat Rogers was another great instructor shooter. Too many guys out there with the same names. But Bill Rogers teaching the way of the gun at high speed for the last 30 years, and the dude can shoot. And the people that come out of that school can shoot. He's not stealing this stuff from anybody. So, long and the short of it, big picture, if you know where the material came from and you're out teaching, I'd pass on those people's names just because it's the honorable and right thing to do. If you're fairly new to this stuff and you think some new guru, who's probably an awesome shooter, created it, chances are he didn't. Go see Rob Latham or Brian Enos and ask them who these guys are. They'll probably know their names, but they definitely did not teach Rob or Brian how to shoot, how to grip the gun, how to see the sights. And I guarantee that these dudes now that are doing well, that are great shooters, are not doing it any different than these guys I listed are doing. There's only so many ways to see a sight or a dot. There's only so many ways to grip that gun. There's only so many ways to press the trigger. Food for thought. Anyway, I'm down here in sunny Florida. We just wrapped 5 days of training up. It was freaking awesome. We were at Aries Range in Leesburg, and we are next headed to beautiful Arizona. We're going to be outside Phoenix at Cowtown. I love that range. Beautiful rugged cliffs behind the range. Cacti out. Is it cactuses? Cacti, I think, isn't it? Who cares? Beautiful prickly plants that you don't want to touch, all in the desert. And the weather this time of year that we'll be down there is gorgeous. 60s, 70s, and maybe kissing into the 80s. We're going to do 2 days of pistol classes and a 3-day rifle pistol class. Some folks asked recently, well, what are we going to work on? We're going to work on being faster, more accurate, and shooting farther away, farther than people often think that they can with their red dots and iron sights. Why? Because we can. Be well. Don't be dickheads. Tell somebody you love them. Pass on information in a meaningful way. Don't forget, somebody probably did it before you. Bye now.